Hi there, and after quite a few weeks of videos on both coloured classic spacemen and of course upscaled Lego bricks, this week I wanted to get back to a Lego theme which I absolutely love, and that's Lego trains. Now unusually, this year Lego has given us in the city range 3 different train sets. Firstly, we've got set 60509, and that's the Harbour freight train. Then we also got set 60506, which was the classic beach tram. And lastly, and the one that I'm going to be building and modifying today, is set 60511, which is called the vintage steam train. Now, for a very long time now, Lego has gone through the same pattern of every few years releasing in the city line a passenger train and a freight train set. But recently they broke free from this mould by first of all giving us the Arctic train set, and then earlier this year giving us the police train set. And these sets always come with enough track to make a loop, and also the elements to motorise it. But this summer they've broken the mould, and they've given us 3 trains which you can easily push along, but 2 of them also have the option to buy extra parts and motorise them, and all of them only come with a few straights of track. The one set which Lego don't supply instructions on how to motorise is the classic beach tram. Now it may be a controversial opinion, and I'm going to expect a lot of comments down below, but I actually quite like this system. It takes me back to the train sets of the 80s, where if you wanted you could buy motorised trains, or push along trains with the option to motorise later on. But anyway, I love Lego City trains, and I also love steam trains, so I decided to buy the vintage steam train set and give it a few upgrades. But first of all, we've got to obviously build the set, and inside the box we've got 6 numbered bags, a stack of 4 straight pieces of track, a bag with some magnetic couplers with the buffers, and a re-railer piece of track, 2 little bags of wheels, and 4 instruction books. And also, by looking at the parts lists, no stickers. Now, as with all my videos, because this is a Lego set and not a mock that I've created myself, I don't feel I need to show you how it's built, because if you'd like to see that, I'll leave a link to the instructions in the description below. So we're going to speed build our way through each book, but I'll stop after each one and you can have a quick look and I'll give you my thoughts on it, and then we'll get on to the fun part of making some nice modifications to the set. So first of all, we've got a small bit of track and a tiny station. And that's book 1 finished, so I'll just show you a few highlights. I really like that they've given us some buffers. It's unusual that they do that in a Lego set these days, but I guess Lego either had to give us one of those or leave it open-ended with another re-railer piece on the other end. Now, if you haven't come across one of these re-railer track pieces before, bearing in mind this is a 7+ set, it means you can roll your train off the track and push it around anywhere you like to your heart's content, but when you want to get it back on the track, you don't have to fiddle about with the wheels. You just run it up the ramp at any angle and it'll automatically get all the wheels onto the track for you. We've got a little 24 stud long platform, and instead of just straight plates for the platform, I appreciate that Lego have given us a nice tiled edge here, showing us the edge of the platform just like you see in real life. We've got a stational lamppost. This is the same piece they use in all the modular sets where you get it in white, but this time it's in black, and I think it really looks smart in this colour. And then down the other end of the platform we've got a simple signal and also a very simple ramp, but very effective use of one of those hinged roof pieces. So that was book 1, on to book 2, which makes us the carriage. And here's the finished carriage. As with all LEGO City trains, it's really easy to take the roof off. It's only being held on by these 4 studs. Inside we've got space to seat 4 passengers along this side, and on the other side we've got a tray with 2 cookies and 2 mugs and a coffee pot. As it's called the vintage steam train, I really like that they've given us the classic LEGO train symbol, but in a printed vintage style piece. And as a nice tie-in, they've also used the same piece on the classic beach tram. But the absolute best thing about the set is that LEGO have gone back to using the wheels with the metal axles in the middle. Now recently LEGO have been using these all plastic wheels. They have a little plastic spindle and they click into place. However, they have a lot more friction on them than the ones with the metal axles, which spin a lot more freely. So this is a nice little 2-axle passenger carriage. The dark green and gold give it a nice colour scheme, and the only thing that I'm not keen on is that it doesn't look anything like a carriage that we'd get here in the UK. But that's something to fix a little bit later on when we finish the whole set. So moving on, and it's the smallest book, book 4, and it's the tender. And that was a quick little build for the tender. And this of course is the piece which gets motorized if you buy the other parts. The brick built chassis at the bottom will get changed for a powered up motor, and the brick built slope here, which is meant to represent coal, will be taken out. We'll put the battery box here instead, and the coal will sit on top. They've continued the green colour scheme from the whole set, and also this gold tap piece motif which they used also earlier on in the coach. So that's 3 books down. Now onto the last book and the main event, the engine itself. And that's the engine finished. And just a few of my own personal highlights. As I said earlier, it's all printed pieces, no stickers in this set, and the number 317 is actually a tribute to an earlier LEGO theme, and that was the My Own Train theme, which was way back in 2002, where you could buy a base train set and then supplemental sets of different colours and change the colour of the set. However, they all had the number 317. This 1x2x2 panel is still relatively new with the circle cutout. It's really good for trains. It gives you a nice porthole kind of effect, and I hope that piece starts to come out in more colours. They've continued that great dark green colour scheme with the gold trimmings all the way through the set, from the carriage to the tender and now to the engine itself. And admittedly, yes, it's no Emerald Knight, but remembering this set is for age 7 and up, I think it's a nice little engine. But no matter how good it looks, it wouldn't be LEGO if we didn't make a few modifications. So we're going to start at the back with the coach, make a few minor changes to the tender in the middle, and finish up doing some work on the engine too. So to start with the coach. And the first thing we're going to do, although these open ends are quite popular and common in European and USA style coaches, it's not something we really get in the UK. So we're going to get rid of those, extend the coach out to make it more square looking like we have in the UK. And to do that, we're going to strip everything off down to the chassis. So we're going to get rid of the roof, we're going to remove the side window panels, and hopefully, yeah, they'll all come off in one piece. And we'll do the same to the other side. There we go. Doesn't matter that those gold bits came off, they've got to come off anyway. So we're down to the window level, then we're going to remove these end pieces like that, then finally get rid of this layer of bricks like that. And then that's all put to one side because we'll be reinstating all of it in a few minutes apart, a few little pieces. So then next, to get rid of these balconies and the curved corners. And that's fairly easy, it's just on those curved plates. So that piece comes off in one piece and hopefully the other end should do the same. And then instead of using those 3x3 curved corner plates, we're going to use regular 3x3 square plates. So we're going to pop those on where we took the curved ones off, and this is where you suddenly realise my desk is not even slightly flat because the engine or the coach always rolls that way. So there we've got square pieces, and then we're going to steal those brown corners. We're going to move them up to the corners of the 3x3 plates that we've added on, and then steal the other two off the other one and pop them on the corners up here. And then a couple more new pieces. We're going to fill the gaps with some 1x2 plates in the reddish brown colour. Oh, I think the steps fell off that side. So filling in the gaps down the sides, and then two more. It's quite fragile at the moment, but once it gets a few more layers on, it'll be fine. Filling in the gaps at the ends with two more. So that's 6 1x2s we've added, and we've got a brown single stud edge all the way around the outside. Next, we're going to add back in the layer of bricks that we took off. So on this side, it's the single stud wide bricks. Then on the opposite side, those lovely printed logos in the middle. And then the 2 stud wide. This one's got the mugs and the coffee pot. This one's got the cookies. And then if we're going to reinstate the ends here, we've got a 2 stud gap in left between the walls and the end. So I've got a stack of 1x2 green bricks. So we've just got 4 of those to fill in the little gaps. Now on the original, next we had the 1x8 rail plate with 2 1x2 rail plates on each side, and we have also now added 2 more 1x2s, so that's another 4 studs. So if we got rid of the 1x2s we originally had, we can replace them with another 1x8, and that was easier to buy than lots of the 1x2s. So what we're going to do is add a 1x8 there, a new one, and our original one, and then same on the other side. Get our original 1x8 and another one which I've recently acquired, and then that's our gold stripe. Next, we're going to add back in the ends of the carriage. So we've got one going here and one going here, and then to fill in the gaps, if you see when we've added our windows, again we're 2 studs short each end, so really easy to do. I've just got some 1x2x3 bricks, one there, and then one on each end of the other side, and then the windows can go back in exactly where they were before, like that. And then, as with every other layer, we've 1x2 short on the top layer of tiles as well, so we're going to just add 4 of those in like that, and then that'll complete our line of tiles down each side. And then lastly, the roof actually overhung the original coach by a few studs, so we've only got to extend this by 1 stud each end. So we're going to start off with a 2x6 plate in dark grey. We're going to add a 1x4 and then a tile in the middle, a 1x2, and then 1x2 curved slopes which match the same slope as the ones used in the coach roof already. And so we've got 1 stud extra on a 2x6 plate. And then easily done is remove that 1x6 and replace it with our 2x6. We've extended our roof by 1 stud. And then we just do exactly the same on the other end, remove that 1x6, and here's one I made earlier. And now we've got, hopefully, the correct length for our coach. Like that. And if you're familiar with UK style rolling stock, I hope you'll agree that that's a lot more in keeping with the kind of style of coach that we've had over the years over here in the UK. But as always, a really good rule of thumb with building anything in Lego is why have one when you can buy two for twice the price? And actually this time it's not entirely true. Amazon had a slight discount on this set for a very short time a couple of weeks ago, and I also had an Amazon voucher lying around which I needed to spend. So I did buy a second set so I could add a second coach, and so I could also at some point in the future make a completely modified engine, maybe remove the tender entirely and make it a tank engine. But for today we're just using the coach part of the set. And before we move on to the tender, another point that I forgot to mention earlier is that if you're a viewer in America, unfortunately the summer wave of Lego City sets always comes out on the 1st of August in North America, whereas most of the rest of the world, the UK included, get them on June the 1st. So although I bought these sets a month ago and a couple of weeks ago, if you live in North America you've still got to wait a couple of weeks before they're released over there. But let's move on to that tender. Now the only real problem I have with the tender are these glaring grey pieces that stick out like a sore thumb underneath, and we can fix that with just 4 pieces. So first of all, if we just take the top off like that, dead easy, we're going to take those 1x4 dark grey plates off. If I can get this one off, there we go. I'm going to replace those with 1x6, well 1x4 in black. When I took that one off, this one went flying, so let's get that one back again. And put another 1x4 on that side, so that's the plates replaced. And then just underneath them there's 2 1x6 grey bricks. I'm not entirely sure why Lego do them in grey when it's really easy to have them in black. And then we just pop this back on top, and that looks a lot better in black underneath. So short but sweet modifications to the tender. Time to move on to the one I'm really looking forward to, the engine. But just before we do, a few seconds to shout out my channel members. Thank you so much for your support, it really is appreciated, and we've added 4 new members to the wall this week. And if anyone else is interested in becoming a channel member and getting your name on a brick in my videos, you can click the join button below or the link in the description and that'll tell you how. Or if you're buying anything from lego.com, just like I did with my first vintage steam train set, you can use my affiliate link in the description below. It doesn't cost you anything, but Lego give me a small commission on everything people buy. But back to modifying that engine. So first of all, we're going to do just a few cosmetic changes like we did on the tender. We're going to drop the entire engine. So first of all, we're just going to do a couple of cosmetic changes to the engine, just like we did on the tender. We're going to get rid of some of these grey pieces underneath, and for that we're going to carefully remove the top of the engine and also the front of the engine. And you can see there's a lot of grey pieces underneath. First of all, these 2 4x4s with the hole in the middle, then the palisade bricks there, which you can see are in dark grey. Then also there's a light grey brick here and a light grey plate in there. So let's get changing. If we get rid of this 4x4 to start with, like that, and then if we remove, hopefully, this piece, oops, sorry, not on camera, we've lost a bit on the floor, but we can retrieve that in a minute. Now we remove that, we can get to those 2 palisade bricks, get rid of them. We're going to just straight swap them for black ones, and then reinstate it back on the body like that. And instead of replacing the grey 4x4, we're going to replace it with a black 4x4 like that, and then just replace that cab piece back on where it came from, and we're going to move to the grey bits at the front. So only 3 parts to replace down at the front. So first of all, we're going to remove the 2 buffers like that, and then take off those grey pieces, and we've got a 2x4 plate and a 1x4 arch brick. I'm not entirely sure why we need an arch, so I'm just using a regular 1x4 brick. So I've got those in black, and then the red piece we took off the grey, and we're going to replace them like that. So no more grey, just black. Then put the buffers back on. Then the only last grey piece again is that 4x4 plate underneath. If we take that off, we can swap it for a black one. And just so you know, the bit that went up flying off was the palisade brick from underneath here. I can't find it on the floor, so we're actually missing that at the moment, but it doesn't really matter. It's not part of the structure. It holds together pretty well as it is. So that's all our black pieces underneath, replacing all the dark grey pieces. So that's the sort of the frame of the engine finished. Now these wheels move independently. We've got 3 on this side and 3 on this side. However, on an actual steam train, they would be joined together, so the rods would be offset from each other. So as the pistons move the the wheels round, they wouldn't ever lock in one position with the rods being in the same place at the same time. So what I'm going to do to join them up together, instead of using these Technic pins in the middle, I'm going to use an axle joining the two middle ones, so they will always be offset from each other by the same amount. So that's easily done. First of all, we're going to remove the sides like that, and then get rid of the two middle wheels, and then oh, the pins actually stayed in here, so we need to pull them out, 1 and 2, and then we're gonna put them back on using this axle. So axle in one of the wheels, slide that across, and then add it to the other wheel. Now we need to make sure that these are offset by 1/4, so that one's at the top and that one is at the front, like that. And yes, they now turn independently, so not independently, together. And then line these up and put the side bars back on. 1, 2, and come on, where's the third pin? There it is, 3, so that one's on there, superb. And then the other side, got to line it up with the middle wheel. So 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. So now when we move these wheels round like that, you can see the opposite wheels move together. So now turning to the front of the engine, and when we put this part back on, you'll see there's red underneath, then there's green and black, and then going back to red again. Now on the front of a regular UK style train, that would have all have been red, so we're not going to put that on yet. We're going to take off those two green 2x2 corner plates. I'm going to replace them with the same piece in red, like that. And then this whole structure, we're going to take that off the 2x6 black plate and add it onto a 2x6 red plate. So that's easily done. That's one side, and then the piece in the middle, and then the other side, all sorted. And then pop that back on, and then we've got a completely red front of the engine. So moving on to the main body of the engine, and we're going to start at the front. Now this dome piece in the middle here was actually a door which could be opened for cleaning the engine out. And we didn't normally have lights like this on the front of UK style trains, so first of all we're going to get rid of that piece, and we're also going to pull out this dome, as that is, by my liking, a little bit too inset. I think it needs to be more mounted in line with the front of the engine to make it look more like a steam engine. Now we want that round tile with the stud in the middle to mount the dome onto, so if we take that out and put that on the back of the dome, then what we're going to do, we're just going to add a couple of plates inside. I'm not entirely sure if we're going to need 1 or 2. Let's start with 1, see what that looks like. I'll get rid of that lamp and pop this back on. That looks pretty good. I'll just see what it looks like with the second one. I'm not entirely sure we're going to need it, but let's make sure we get the best look we can. Put the tile back on. Oh, I'm in 2 minds now. Not entirely sure. I think I'll go back to the previous one with just 1 plate, but let me know what you think. What do you think is most in keeping with a steam engine? Slightly recessed like that, or slightly more proud. We're going to leave it like that for the moment, but instead of having that light on here, we're going to have a handle so they could open up the door at the end of the day to clean out the engine. So that's just using one of these paddle pieces like that. Just going to put that facing sideways. That looks a lot more like a regular steam engine. Moving back along the engine, one thing I didn't like was that the firebox here was 1 plate lower than the boiler at the front. Then they should, I feel, should be level with each other. So what we're going to do is take this piece off and raise it up 1 plate so they end up both in line all the way along. So LEGO have designed this train in a beautiful modular fashion, so that whole piece can just come lifting out like that, and it leaves the entire rest of the body as it is without any changes, and what we're going to need to do is raise this up by 1 plate, so we've got some extra 1x6 green plates to add in on top and on the sides. So these modified plates that stick out the side sit on the sides like that and hide the red. So what we're actually going to do, we need to raise up these curved bricks instead. So if we take those off, hopefully leaving those plates on, might be easier just to take the whole lot off though. Yes it is. Let's take them off like that, put those plates back on, and then to raise those curved bricks up, we can get a dark green 1x6 and just add that on like that. And then when you reinstate those curved bricks, you can see they are now 1 plate higher than the middle. So we're going to need to do the same to the other side and also the same to the middle. So I've done the same to the other side, so that's both sides sorted. We just need to sort out the middle bit. Also, by raising that up with some green plates, we're going to get rid of those 4 tan corners that you can see all around the dome. So once we've replaced that with green, then that'll be green around it. It'll look a lot better. So we're going to pull off that dome, and then the 2 clips and the taps at the front, and then the 2 1x3 tiles, and then 2 more 1x6s because they're cheaper to get than a 2x6. Pop those on, so removing the tan and also raising it up by 1 plate. Replace that gold piece, the 2 1x3 tiles, oops, pop the side off, and then the dome as well, like that. Now we need to pop this back in the middle of the engine like that, and I hope you'll agree it looks better with green, and also looks better level with the boiler. And so to our last modification for the top of the train at least, and I had to get a slightly rarer piece this week which I hadn't bought before, and it's because the dome on these engines should normally be the same colour as the bodywork. So what we're going to do, if we remove that black dome, I managed to get hold of a dark green one. If we replace that, I think that makes it look a lot better. And in fact, a completely unplanned modification, something I've just thought of as I was filming, the dome is still slightly recessed. If we could raise that up by a plate as well, it would look as if it's level on the top like that, rather than being inset like that, with having those 4 corners showing around the outsides. So now I need to find it, see if I can get any kind of plate in dark green in my store. So 2x2 plates, no such luck. There's lots of regular green and blues and other colours like that, but there is no dark greens in there at all. Whereas 1x2s, by complete chance, there's one sitting on top here, and there's also one tucked away down here. So I have got 2. I don't actually think, I think they must be the only 2 I've got in dark green by the looks of things. They are, but let's give those a go and see how it looks if I pop those 2 in there, one there, and then one above it. And then not the black one, let's get the green one. Pop that back on. Let me know what you think. Do you think that looks better having that flush at the top there, or did you think it looked better slightly indented? So with all those mods done, we now just need to put the body back on the chassis of the train. And I have just noticed that I put this piece back on, back to front. We need to pull that bit off and give it a turn round, although it's a lot more sturdy than it was before. If you turn that round like that, because the dome is meant to be at the front and the whistle is meant to be at the cab end. There we go, that looks a lot better than it did. And with the updated engine joined back onto the tender, we've got one final modification to do between the 2 of them. Looking from above, you can see that this poor guy with his shovel's got a fairly hairy job, jumping from this part here where he's throwing the coal into the boiler, jumping over here to scoop up some more coal to take back again. He's got a 3 stud wide gap there, which is a little bit dangerous and probably a bit of a health and safety concern. And so we're going to fix that with these 2 pieces. Firstly, a collectible minifig stand, which is effectively a 4x3 tile with a row of studs down the middle, and a regular 2x4 tile. So first of all, the minifig stand, we're going to place that on the row of studs on the cab there, and then we're going to get the 2x4 and we're going to place that on the row of studs here. And when you join the 2 back together, you can see there's no gap at all now. The guy can walk happily between the coal and the boiler with his shovel full of coal, and he's not going to fall down underneath the wheels. But also, you may worry that going around the corner, these 2 pieces are now going to collide. However, as luck would have it, they are actually one plate higher than each other. So the one on top of the tender, as you can see, as it goes around a corner, swivels on top of the collectible minifig plate. It makes a slight gap on a larger corner, but there's always a part that he can jump from one to the other on. So I think that's a good modification to keep the two together. And testing it on the tight curve that LEGO make, you can see that the corner of the 2x4 tile doesn't even come close to the studs on the collectible minifig stand. So we've upgraded the coach and given it a little bit of a different look. We've got rid of some grey pieces under the tender, which I thought tended to stick out rather a lot. We've done the same on the engine, got rid of all the grey and made a completely black chassis. We've joined the wheels so they now all roll round together. We've got rid of the grey at the front and made a completely red beam above the buffers. We've brought the boiler door out slightly and also given it a handle, making it easier for the minifigs to open. Made the engine completely level for its entire length and obviously changed out that dome from black to green. And of course given our driver a much more safe environment to work in. So let me know your thoughts on these modifications in the comments below. Please consider becoming a channel member or using my affiliate link to buy from lego.com. If you've liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. But above everything else, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe for more LEGO videos.